Thank you all for coming back. I hope you had a nice cup of coffee, a rushed cup of coffee. We're going to keep you on your toes today. So this next session is actually about the project itself. So we're actually going to give you, I'm sure most of you already know about what the project is, but you might not know the kind of minutiae in terms of what each kind of partner is doing and what they're undertaking. So I'm kindly going to defer to my lead colleague from University of Amsterdam, Anouk, to actually provide the initial overview, and then each of us will kind of step up and give our kind of piece as we go. So, Anouk, you're very welcome.
Thanks very much, David, and good morning, everyone, colleagues, friends, partners. It's wonderful to see so many of you here, familiar faces, new faces. Thank you all for making the time to come and join us and share your experiences. Thanks. I'm very happy to tell you a little bit more about the project. So this talk will be a bit more down to earth compared to the terrific keynote we just had the opportunity to listen to. And I'll tell you a bit about why we started working together and what we are aiming to do. So I think it has been mentioned a couple of times. This is a relatively small Erasmus project initiated by 4 core partners. Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, KTH in Sweden, our generous hosts of today, University College Dublin, and my own university, the University of Amsterdam. And we also work together with a number of associate partners, which are mainly national organizations that are helping us to share knowledge and also disseminate the outputs in our local and national contexts. But maybe there are also some colleagues from Irish organizations here, or we will meet them this evening, for example. I think it has been mentioned a couple of times, but it might be good to remind ourselves that when we started writing this bit, we were in the midst of the first phase of the global pandemic. And as we also heard during the inspiring keynote, this changed the way universities teach. And we think this change is here to stay. And of course, during the pandemic, there were many exchanges between our universities, because we are partners also in different contexts, about how we manage the emergency mode. So we were actually quite surprised, myself included, that our universities managed to switch from completely campus-based on-site teaching to online teaching in 48 hours. I mean, the University of Amsterdam was definitely not ready. I think I'm speaking on behalf of my colleagues who were leading some of this. So who would have thought that we would master this? I even remember coming into a crisis meeting 36 hours before we had to go online, and one of the executive board members asking me about the size of some of our key cohorts because they had no idea what it would mean. So we all did it. We all did it simultaneously across the globe, in all corners of the world, in all corners of Europe. So it was also an opportunity because we could compare. We were all in the same situation. So it was like an experiment. You referred a lot of time to experimentations that we would have never been allowed to set up if we would have planned it. And we think all of us ended up in a state of digital transformation, whether we liked it or not. So the objective of this project is that we discovered amongst the 4 universities that we did things in a different way, sometimes also in similar ways. And we also have different strengths and different starting points or infrastructures. To name just an example, at the University of Amsterdam, unknowingly, we had established a teaching and learning center structure just before the pandemic hit us. Luckily, because it became our savior. If we wouldn't have had that, who would have been doing all the emergency meetings or telling lecturers what to do? So we were lucky. And we know that here at UCD, there has been a TLC-like structure in place for many years. So it's interesting for us to learn from that. Aristotle University, on the other hand, was much more advanced in all the technological support, the types of choices of software, teacher support compared to ourselves. So these are examples where there are complementarities and where we can find strengths, and this is what we would like to share amongst ourselves, but also amongst other universities and higher education institutions across Europe. And we think that we should be more proactive and move into a more permanent state of hybrid teaching models in the context of what we still call campus-based teaching, but we don't mean for this to be a divide, James, but we think that we are campus university, so this is our starting point, but we also embrace all these forms of hybrid blended virtual teaching modes. And I think what is a very interesting development in parallel, that many of us are also global universities with a very international student population, and many of the challenges about equity, for example, and how to make sure that everybody feels engaged in the same way, are also equally important in this international setting. So maybe we can bring some of those experiences from the international setting also into making the hybrid into real fusion, which is a great term, by the way. If we would have known, maybe we would have named the project Fusion. So the point here is, of course, that ever since technology did not wait for universities to catch up and embracing digitalization more proactively, in the meantime, they leapfrogged into new developments. I think all of you know this logo. ChatGPT has been around not even a year, I think, but all of us need to develop action plans. We need to sort out how to embrace the positives, but how to also meet the challenges of things that are negatively impacting our teaching or the way students engage. So I'm sure all of the universities in the room will have developed task force like ourselves on AI in education. And we need to think also about ways of enhancing the awareness of digitalization amongst our academic staff, our lecturers, and via enhancing their awareness, also give better guidance to our students in the digital world. The world is not only global, but also digital, and in their future jobs and careers, this is something that our future graduates are going to have to handle. So what do we mean by hybrid teaching models? We saw some definitions already in the keynote, and I think this sort of resonates what we were thinking when we developed the project, also with what we heard before earlier this morning in the talk, that we consider it to be, well, maybe a fusion, although we didn't think of that word back at the time, that it's a combination of using online, blended and hybrid teaching for specific components of courses in study programs, but it's intended to enhance the quality of teaching learning, and to make sure that we can increase and optimize student engagement. And I think maybe also come to think of it, I think in the welcome message, it was said that teaching staff, also very experienced teachers, were forced to rethink the impact on their teaching practice. And given that we are assuming that the hybrid and digital modes are here to stay, we need to think about how to make the most out of the human contact. I think it's something you said also, James, about creating the intimacy and the emotional connections, how to do that. So now we have all this technology, and there are all these tools that we can use to improve the classes, to engage students, but how to make the most out of the human contact? Because now we have time at our hands, and how to do that. And maybe there's no single answer to that question. Maybe there are several answers, and this is what we like to find. It's learning by doing, and we would like to share that also, for example, in our forthcoming community of practice. And we also would very much like to hear your inputs and experiences on this. So what we will contribute in very concrete terms, of course, we need to remember that we are an EU-funded project, so we need to focus on the envisaged project outputs. We would like to enhance academic teaching and create drivers to improve the interactions. Now, I think on-campus interactions may be too limited after having listened to the talk this morning, but it's the interactions across the board, perhaps that would be a better term. Some challenges. We are now in the post-pandemic era, and we've noticed that not all students return to campus, not even all lecturers fully did return. So how to make it more attractive, how to create a sticky campus. We don't even have a real campus in Amsterdam because we're scattered around the city. So how to make sure students still would like to come, and how to make sure that we can support teaching staff in working with digital tools. I thought that that was also an excellent point made this morning, that for teaching staff, their role has changed. So, for example, I remember from one of the interviews, and Olga will say more about that later, one of our professors, he told me that in my practice, I felt during the pandemic and after that I'm no longer just a lecturer, but I'm a moderator. I need to do all these tasks. I need a teaching assistant. I need to know what's going on in the chat. I need to keep an eye on the online participants. It's a completely different job. And I'm not sure if I can do it. I'm not sure if I'm equipped, if I have the skills and the competencies. So we need to think about that. What does that mean on how we organize teaching and learning, how we invest, how we support our teaching staff? And this is also why we involve different types of stakeholders in this project. It's not just an academic-led project. It's about all the stakeholders, especially those who work in educational technology, teaching and learning centers, because they are the ones who know what it takes to deliver the class, and also to make sure that the lecturers are being fully equipped to focus on that and therefore improve their teaching. And if we do that better, if we get that, we can also provide better guidance to our students. If we show them how to use the digital tools in a responsible fashion, they will know how to do this later on after they graduate, hopefully, although probably technology will catch up with us and there will be something new, but at least they will know how to think critically and how to not simply, jump on the opportunity. So back to the project results. We've broken those down as we ought to in some EU context into 4 very concrete results we're working on. One thing is the actionable framework for responsible use of digital technologies and digital learner data. This is led by KTH, and Olga and Emma will talk more about that during the course of the day and also in this presentation. The second project result is a digital contents map, and parts of that are already available, and this is done by UCD, and we will also show some of that during the workshops and other interactions today. Aristotle University of Thessaloniki is leading on the virtual community of practice. And we have a little scoop for you here today, because we can tell you that the community is ready. It's not filled with information yet, but that's also something we would like you to help us with. And we will show you how to engage. And hopefully this meeting today can be a starting point of interactions between ourselves and other colleagues back home and in other corners of Europe to discuss and share practices. And finally, at the end of the project, everything will be collated into a dynamic digital handbook summarizing the practices and the links. And this is the task that my own university is responsible for at the very end. So to do some curtain raising on the results to date, I'm going to ask for the help of my great colleagues. And first up is Olga from KTH to say a bit about the first project results.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for a nice introduction, Anouk. I will just give you a very short, brief background to what we have done, because we have a workshop later after lunch, so we'll give you more details about that. So considering the fact that a lot of technologies came in, both adopted by institutions, but also some teachers privately adopt some technologies, students adopt technologies. So there is a big mix of different technologies, and also a lack of policies how to use this technology in a responsible way. Also, the use of the technologies allows for generation of a lot of student data, log data, whatever data they use, that could be used to improve their conditions for learning. So we thought that we need to increase this responsibility, how we use this technology and how we can use student learner data for good in a more responsible way. So we decided that we would like actually to get some insights from the faculty and teachers to see what they think about it. So we conducted interview case studies across the 4 partner countries. So we conducted in Greece, in Netherlands, at KTH, and we also got help from David and Ian for collecting data in Northern Ireland. So some of the results, we wanted to better understand teachers' experiences of teaching online during pandemic and afterwards, but also we wanted to understand what they mean by responsible use of these technologies and what they mean by responsible use of student data, because some of them use it, some would like to use it, but they don't know how to use it. So for some of the results, we're talking about the benefits, challenges, and needs. So one of the benefits we talk about, so improve class materials. So many teachers needed to rethink and they needed to improve what they're already using, which was a good thing. and highlighted by several of the participants. Also benefits ability to teach technology in hybrid settings, increase students' engagement. So by readapting to pedagogy, so many of the participants, study participants said that students actually shown some increased engagement that haven't seen before. So in some way, it was a good thing. Among the challenges, they mentioned the lack of social interaction. I think many of you probably recognize this, these GACE meeting contact. Organization of exams assessment is a big issue for many institutions, still is. And I think after pandemic, some institutions maybe rethought it, but some institutions have come back to the previous assessment practices. And we don't know whether it's good or bad. We need to do a lot of work there, but it's a big research focus now and also like area of practice that we need to improve. And also for needs, some of the participants mentioned more guidance how to use technology to enhance teaching and learning. So they use it, but they need more knowledge about how to use it in a way that will benefit their teaching practices and they will benefit learning practice. But I will talk more about it and Emma will help me later. And the future need, just some few of them. So keeping up with learning new technology, they do not keep up. I mean, these ChatGPT generative are coming, it's coming and it's already there, but teachers are not keeping up, many of them. How to use technology, how to activate and engage students in different technology mediated learning environments and activities. Another area that they would like to help is. Also, several we ask about, the student data, about using learning analytics, how to make it more efficient, and they want to know more. They want to do it, but they have pretty limited knowledge about what it is and how they can actually use it in a way that will benefit their students and their teaching practice. Also, they would like to know more about hybrid settings and work. They also mentioned the AI. They want to know more, for example, how to assess open-ended questions with AI, and also how to record good videos. I would say that the needs expressed or by different participants, they differ a bit between different institutions, different countries, but I think many things we have to work with still. So more to come after lunch. Okay, I'm good, thanks.
Okay, so quick update on the UCD side. So basically part of the UCD initiative was to actually create digital content maps of each of the institutions. Although you can't see these little kind of snapshots, what I can tell you is that each institution's technological footprint was actually captured. So we know exactly what they use teaching, we know what their physical spaces are, we know the kind of tool sets that they use, but we went one layer up and we started to gather kind of information sheets and kind of guidance sheets on those particular tools and technologies. So as a resource, this has become really quite interesting. So not only do we know what each of us use, comparatively speaking, but we also have a whole array of back-end support materials on each of those. Obviously, the next kind of phase of that is actually to kind of figure out not only kind of gap analysis in terms of what others don't have, i.e. what is it that we can beg, borrow and steal from our colleagues, but also to actually see where the kind of continuity is for kind of going towards the future in terms of creating, like Olga's just said, kind of video capture, what kind of tools, what kind of resources are there, and so forth and so on. So that's the first phase. So there's a lot in those digital maps which are actually now available on our project site and will be kind of published out on the major project site shortly. The other part of UCD's focus was actually to kind of capture that actual practice. So obviously the case studies that are about to be demonstrated to us are exactly those. But what we really wanted to do was actually basically capture what people have done as a consequence of the pandemic. So how did their own kind of practice change? What were their experiences? How can they sustain the change that's come forward? And more importantly, how can they actually sustain one another? Because the other thing that obviously happened is that many of us actually openly shared our practice, our resources. And that's something that, although it's really nice, it doesn't happen as often as it should. And so what we're really trying to do, which is going to lead nicely into Tras's piece, is that through our community, not only do we want to share the actual case studies, but we want to share individuals' personal experiences to actually be able to reach out, to communicate with one another and say, I have something here that will be of assistance to you. I have direction, I have guidance. So the case studies are there. That little QR code is a live link. So if you want to actually still add case studies, we are more than welcome to take those. And I'll actually do a little quick punt here. So as you may know, the people who present today, we actually have an iPad to offer to one of our presenters that will be pulled out of a hat later this evening. But we also have another one available for people who have just, given us case studies. So we're still collecting case studies, and there will be an end date in October for the project purposes. So please give us more and tell your colleagues to give us more. Okay, over to Tras.
Okay, nice being here. It's first of all, congratulations for the organization and all the program that we have today. So now I'd like just to present you what we have done. As Anouk said, we have created the infrastructure for the virtual community of practice. It's a customized version of Moodle. We have changed the Moodle in order to be more collaborative and not for delivering courses, but to support groups of people to collaborate with. And we have selected Moodle because most of the professors are familiar with Moodle, so we don't want to create another platform for supporting them. As you may know, a community of practice is a group of people who share a profession or a craft or a hobby. We think that all the professors have the same problem, what to do with the technology, how they can overcome the problems during the COVID and after COVID. And also in our university, we have created an ad hoc community of practice. The first week that we have the lockdown, the very strict lockdown in our university, just after the Greek Easter time at that time. So I remember that we have created there in our e-learning platform, a community of practice only for the professors to exchange ideas, how we can overcome in 2 days, to exchange, problems and solutions. And suddenly, we are there 1,600 professors, and we have collected a lot of solutions that we haven't foreseen, because we are a very comprehensive university with a medical school, with engineering school. So every professor has its own solution, an ad hoc solution. And it works. For that reason, we have proposed here to create a community of practice. And as David said, in order for you to present in way your experiences and your solutions, in order then to have to find best practices for our universities and for every faculty. So you know that every community of practice is a space, but this space can have a lot of functionalities like workspace, discussion forums, etc. But the thing is that we cannot have community without members. So this the idea here is to invite you to be members. We will send you the link. We will activate the community this week in order for you to create your accounts there and to discuss in different content areas. Here are some proposed content areas because, as Olga said, there are many challenges and needs, like the organization of exams, assessment, or needs of how to use technology. So in the slide, you can see some issues, pedagogical issues, how you can use technology in the classroom, how you can support the distance learning, or as James said before about hybrid learning and blended learning. And the main issue is examinations from distance, because it's also different in different countries with different legal frameworks. So maybe we can discuss this in a workshop that we have in Thessaloniki this November. Here we will organize 9th or 10th of November a multiplier event, and we would like to organize a workshop of how we can organize this virtual community of practice. and then we will decide all these content areas. So if you would like to see where is our community, this is the link, and but you can create this account. We will activate it this week. It's not activated yet. This is from my side. So Anouk, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Charles.
Yeah, this is just to circle back to the focus of today's event. And of course, we already progressed quite a bit into the morning. So we had the pleasure of listening to a terrific keynote by James Lamb and get a lot of insights and inspiration to move forward into the workshops. So we will look at the case studies David and Owen have been collecting from all of us. Some of them will be presented and others will be shared later on also in the community of practice. There are a number of workshops, including those on the outcomes of the work that KTH has been carrying out on teachers' experiences and also responsible use of learner data and technology. At the end of the day, all of this will be shared during a reception. We've been told that we will get the opportunity to walk through a museum, discuss with music, chat, and drinks. Maybe there will be some choreography in another way taking place there, and share everything we learned with everybody who's interested from our universities and also external stakeholders. And what we also would like to encourage very much is to all of you, of course, there are many representatives from here, from this institution, but I think also at KTH, Amsterdam, and Thessaloniki, we should do knowledge sharing events internally. So for example, in Amsterdam, we are planning a knowledge sharing events organized by our teaching and learning centers from the training event that was hosted by KTH earlier this summer. And this one, where all the participants from our university will share what we've learned with colleagues across the teaching and learning centers, but also our ICT units, for example, and all faculties, to make sure that we spread the message and also encourage other colleagues to engage. And it would be really wonderful if the others could do the same. And hopefully everybody will at the end meet in the community of practice at some point. That is just to underpin the point that this is a project run by a number of colleagues, but we can only do it with your help. So we need you to engage, and I'm really happy to see so many of you are here, but also in the forthcoming events, the multiplier Thras was talking about, it will be hosted in Thessaloniki in November. Do spread the word if you know anybody in Greece or people who would be interested to travel. We would love to welcome you and also to engage further. And in 2024, we are looking to organize a final event hosted in Stockholm by KTH. And we would also like to welcome all of you and colleagues across Europe to those events. And hopefully after that, we will continue to engage in a follow-up. We already have a name. If we can borrow the fusion term in one way or another, we can continue working together. So I think that's all from my side. Thanks very much for listening and looking forward to a very fruitful and productive meeting for the rest of the day. And if you would like to find us, here we are. Thank you very much.